Someone gets arrested at midnight on a Friday. Their spouse's phone rings. She grabs her laptop. She Googles attorney bond Dallas-Fort Worth. She dials the first 3 firms on the list. 2 send her to voicemail. The 3rd one picks up. And in the next 90 seconds, that 3rd firm decides whether this is going to be a $500 bond call or $5,000 defense case, or the start of an even bigger client relationship. Most firms do not even know they're making that decision. This is the bond funnel most firms miss. I analyzed 3,492 criminal defense calls for one Dallas-Fort Worth firm. 116 of them mention points or bail. 35% of those calls qualified as real leads. This is 3 times the firm's average, and across 4 months of data, only 1 bond call was ever missed. 1. The pillar video in this series called this segment the moment where everything works, and that is true, but the reason it works is more specific than the pillar video had time to explain. Once you see it, you can build a whole system around it. So in this video, I'm going to show you what the word bond actually tells you about the caller, why 39% of these calls already contain a hidden 2-step funnel, and the specific system you can build to run that funnel on purpose. Here's the first finding. Bond callers are not just urgent, they're pre-qualified. The word itself is doing the filtering work before your intake team ever picks up the phone. Think about what a caller has already told you when they say bond. 1, someone was arrested. Not cited and released, not warned, arrested. 2, the charge is serious enough that a judge set a bond amount. So this is not a basic citation and release situation. 3, they or their family have access to cash right now, because bond means moving money in the next few hours. That is 3 things about the buyer delivered in a single word before you even say hello. And the data backs this up. Look at what happens to qualification rates when the word bond enters the call. DUI qualifies at 61% across the whole data set. Inside bond calls, it jumps up to 73%. Assault qualifies at 60% overall. Inside bond calls, 77%. Domestic violence and family violence, 63%. Higher overall, but inside bond calls, 90%. Drug distribution qualifies at 78% inside bond calls, and aggravated felonies at 73%. The bond raises the qualification rate on every major case type your firm actually wants to represent. Everyone. And there's a reason for that. Bond amounts on these calls had a median of 60K. Some went as high as 400K. These are not casual advice callers. These are not what happens if callers. These are serious cases with real urgency and money already moving. The bond mention selected for them. Now, everything I've said so far, you might have guessed. Bond callers convert well. Bond callers are urgent. Bond callers are cash ready. Fine. But here's the part I do not think most firm owners see. 39% of bond callers in this data set already contained a second conversation about the defense retainer inside the same call. The funnel is forming without anyone designing it. Here's some real examples anonymized. A family caller about a boyfriend in Cook County Jail. Multiple charges across 3 counties. $400,000 bond. On that single phone call, the attorney discussed the bond reduction and quoted a $10,000 flat fee for the defense with a $2,000 initial retainer. The caller committed to both. Here's another example. A wife calling about her husband's forgery case in Tarrant County. Bond was the entry point. By the end of the call, the attorney had quoted $5,000 with a $1,000 down and $500 monthly. Contract was sent same call. Another example, family violence warrant. $500 attorney bond fee, agreed to file the bond and represent in court. Contract signed same night. Full defense conversation queued for the next week. So what is happening here? Bond is not the product. Bond is the doorway. Step 1, a $500 attorney bond fee. Small transaction, low friction. The family is not deciding, do I hire a lawyer for the entire case? They're deciding, do I get my husband out of jail today? That is much easier to say yes to. Step 2 in the funnel. Once the client is home, the family has already worked with your firm on a successful transaction. You're no longer a stranger who quoted them a very scary retainer over the phone. You're the firm that helped when it mattered. And step 3 is the defense retainer. This defense retainer conversation happens under calmer conditions. The urgent thing is solved, trust is now real, and price is easier to discuss. That is why 39% of bond calls already stack both conversations. The funnel is a natural side effect of the caller's psychology. Your firm just has to notice it and design around it. If you watch my video on the weekend black hole and jail cell call videos in this series, you have already seen pieces of this. Weekend showed what happens when urgent criminal defense calls hit voicemail. Jail cell showed what happens when family urgency reaches a human. Bond is where those patterns collapse into one. You've got after hours urgency, family caller, serious case, and cash readiness. They're also ready to hire. So now let's talk about how to build this funnel. Fix number one, you have a dedicated Bond intake script. Most firms use the same intake script for every call. That is a mistake for Bond callers. Give your intake team a specific Bond script. It has to do 3 specific things. First, lead with speed. Where is your loved one being held? What is the charge? What was the bond set? Second, quote the attorney bond fee early, not the full defense retainer, not the whole case, just the bond fee. That's the low friction first step. And third, book the defense conversation for after the client is home. Not right now, not while the family is panicking, not while they're just trying to solve the jail problem, after the urgent thing is handled. That is when you have the full defense conversation. The cost is $0. Have one training session to show your intake team this, and the script becomes the intake path for anyone who says the word bond in the first minute. Fix number 2, I want you to test bond specific ads. Almost no criminal defense firms are intentionally testing searches like attorney bond, posting bond, get someone out of jail lawyer, bond reduction attorney, emergency bond lawyer. The search volume is a lot smaller than criminal defense lawyer, but the conversion rate can be dramatically higher. And that's the point. You do not need a massive volume if the intent is better. If a generic criminal defense lawyer click costs you $30 and converts at 11%, and a bond specific click costs $40 but converts at 45%, the bond click can be dramatically cheaper per acquired case. But to test it, do not blindly dump money into it. Check your market, check the economics, check the rules in your jurisdiction, and then build a landing page that talks about bond directly. Add a phone number that routes to the bond intake script, then track whether those callers convert into both the bond fee and the defense retainer. Because the goal is not just a cheaper click. The goal is a better funnel. Fix number 3, automate the defense handoff. This is where most firms lose the second step. The client pays $500 for the bond, the loved one gets out, then what? At most firms, nothing systematic happens. Sometimes the family hires the firm for defense. Sometimes they hire somebody else. Sometimes they do nothing until court gets closed, but that should not be left to chance at all. The fixed is an automated sequence. You need text follow-up 48 hours after the bond is posted. Now that your husband is home, let's talk about the defense. Then a scheduled attorney callback within a week. That's the handoff. Bond fee first, defense conversation second. Not as an accident, as a system. Now, let's put a number on it. We've used this calculator approach in different videos in this series, so you'll be familiar with it. Say your firm gets 4 bond calls a month. That is super conservative for a small criminal defense practice. You're more likely to get 10 if you're actively marketing around it. Step 1 is the attorney bond fee. At a 45% conversion, that is about 2 closed bond transactions per month. At $500 each, that is about $1,000 a month, $12K a year. Enough to pay for the intake training and the SMS platform many times over. Step 2, the defense retainer. Say half of your bond clients convert to a full defense at $3,500 average retainer. That is 1 additional defense call per month from the bond funnel. At $3,500 times 12, that's another $42K a year. So for a small firm running a bond funnel casually, this can be worth around $50K a year. For a mid-sized firm doing 10 or more bond calls a month with a real handoff sequence, the number can be closer to $150K a year. Your number may be higher, your number may be lower, but the point is simple. The bond call is already happening. The trust is already forming. The second traction is already available. Most firms just do not have a system to capture it. Drop your monthly bond volume in the comments, or you can let me run the math on your actual call data. The link's in the description. Here's one takeaway. Bond is not the product. Bond is the doorway. Every criminal defense firm gets bond calls. Almost no firms are designed around what those calls actually are, which means this funnel is available, and the firms that build it are going to eat. Here's your homework. Tomorrow, pull the last 20 bond calls from your CRM. For each one, answer 2 questions. Question 1, did the caller pay bond fee? Question 2, did they hire the firm for defense representation afterwards? If you cannot answer question 2, you do not have a funnel yet. You just have bond calls. That is the audit. This is part of my series breaking down 3,492 criminal defense intake calls. If you've not seen the other pillar video yet, watch it next. It gives you 6 intake leaks in one place. And if you want me to run this kind of audit against your firm's actual call data, the link is in the description. There's no pitch. I just think every criminal defense firm should be doing this at least 1 time a year. And the pillar video is on screen now, so you can see all 6 of the leaks. Hit subscribe.